Ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to all of you to an evening that is steering some really, really important conversation. And I'm truly excited and very eagerly looking forward to this conversation wherein we focus about Equal at Sea, turning the tide with women on board, presented by Maersk in association with the Economic Times, ETWorld, and our supporting partner, ETInfra. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and please help me welcome on stage Karan Kochar.
Here in this room this evening, we have policymakers, we have industry leaders, experts, seafarers. All of us here have the power to influence the role of women in our industry. It's not just enough that careers at sea are open to all genders, but in order to make a realistic and impactful change, I believe it's our collective responsibility to drive women participation dedicatedly and sustainably. And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's high time that we turn the tide with women on board and ensure everyone is truly equal at sea. Together, we need to unearth taboos, break myths, and recognize competence over opinion.
Ladies and gentlemen, our chief guest for the evening, Shri Amitabh Kumar, Director General of Shipping, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India, is considered to be the doyen of this industry. So with a huge round of applause, please help me welcome Shri Amitabh Kumar to please share his words with the August gathering.
An HP report has recently found that men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the required qualifications. But women will apply only if they meet 100% of the qualifications. 100%. The first Indian vessel, MT Swarn Krishna, and again MT Swarn Godavari of the Shipping Corporation of India, has demonstrated that there is no deficit in knowledge or skill or bravery or entrepreneurship when it comes to women Indian seafarers if they are given a chance and right guidance. The sailing of ships with all women crew, not once but twice, has proven that women are now prepared to take risks and climb up the leadership challenge. To me, the best way to celebrate women in maritime is to increase their share in seafaring from the present level of pathetic less than 1%. Question is, how to attract women who do not want to be less than perfect, are less inclined to take up jobs, and are vulnerable during economic downturns. I think, as an industry, the biggest favor you can do to yourself and to women is to stop questioning their ability to perform. When it comes to performance, women can be as good, if not better, than men. I have also in the past discussed the ways to attract women in seafaring. The first limb of the strategy is encouragement. We need to bring women to our training institute. The second limb of the strategy is retention. And the retention starts from on-job ship training. It is enough discussion. It is now time for action.
We all know that the United Nations has declared a sustainability development goal for gender diversity. And that's where some of these actions have originated. Psychology research has shown that men consciously prefer to mentor, network with, promote, and pay more to other males. The tendency for men to get ahead at the expense of equally qualified or even better qualified professional females is quite common. But research also proves that it is in the best interest of the organization to hire the best people. And the best people, like we've seen the toppers in the IAS or even elsewhere, the best people could include women. And if we leave them out, I think it is at the cost of the organization and the industry itself.
We at Maersk are passionate about equality at sea, and I would truly appreciate to see all of you join us on the journey to attain it. The destination is not just equality or diversity, but also equity, which I'll get back to. But first, let's face it. Diversity is not a concept that comes very natural to us humans. We prefer the things that we are used to. We like being around people that we know, and we are not very comfortable with the unknown. Most of us have some sort of unconscious biases. We might not like to admit it or acknowledge it, but nonetheless, that is a fact for most of us. Our brains are in some ways still wired as back in the Stone Age. Back then, it would have been a cause for concern if you ran into someone that looked different. On the other hand, there is equity, which our brain is equipped to identify naturally. By equity, I mean equality and fairness, recognizing that each individual has different circumstances. Research shows that our mind can instantly take note of even a glimmering act of inequity. But we are also driven by the star of hope, as I referred to earlier. We know that significant change is possible if we really put our minds and efforts into it.
And now it's time to march towards a very interesting panel discussion, again on a topic about embracing a sea of opportunities, especially when we look at women seafarers.
It's important to have diversity in this, and nobody disagrees with the fact. But why in seafaring? Why is it fundamentally important in this particular business?
In other industries, it's been proven that, one, of course, we all know there's a moral case for diversity. It's the right thing to do. But we know that there's a business case for diversity. Teams perform better. There's greater productivity, efficiency, greater innovation. And we ourselves have done a research within India, while that was for women on shore, where it was shown that a majority of the 102 companies we spoke to came back with the same answer, that yes, having a greater level of diversity means the organization performs better. And the same principle should apply to seafaring.
We actually practice what we see. In other words, I'm trying to get across a message that we must walk what we talk. All of us in general say that we must have ladies on board, we must do this, we must do that. But how many of us are actually walking the talk?
If we want to tap into half of the talent pool that is available, we need to change the tides also in society, and we need to remove the bias. And I think Captain Karan also mentioned, this is centuries ago that shipping started, thousands of years. And it's only in the last 40, 50 years maybe that we had women at sea. And now we're talking about making a significant change again. We want to shift into actually having a sizable proportion of our colleagues at sea being women. And that requires mindset change. It requires, I think it's been said many times, it requires walking the talk. But I'm absolutely convinced either way that there is a super good business case. There is good business sense to drive diversity at sea. If we really want to move the needle here, we need to look at all ranks, we need to look at all nationalities. And if you look at the Indian seafarers, for example, we may have as much, I'm almost said, but 1.5% of the population being women. But how many of those are ratings, for example? And I'll bet you that number is significantly lower. If you look at the Filipino community, for example, there is a significantly higher percentage of women. So I think there is something in society that, of course, makes this a challenge.
So the Navy has now put women on ships. So the problem is not the number of women willing to come on board. It is the habitation, which is the block. So what would be my advice to the merchant navy to attract more women? First is publicize. Second is women are very, I think the women who come into the Navy are very particular about equality. They want an equal opportunity. They want level playing field. They don't want preferential treatment because they're women.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's also move ahead to another feisty topic, and that's why we've aptly called it the Fireside Chat. First up, we have with us none other than Captain Radhika Menon, sailing captain, Synergy Maritime, and co-founder, International Women Seafarers Foundation. We also have the august presence of Captain Samuel Solomon Ebenezer, Fleet Captain AP Moller Maersk.
The entire conversation that we've had so far about safety for women on board, and also safety is one part of it, but also respect and acknowledgement of the value that a woman will bring on board. How have you seen this in your career? You've now been in this for 30 years and more.
My first ship, I had a lot of issues that you can ever imagine. Like, I knew taking to an unconventional field would not be a cakewalk. Nobody would accept anybody and just like that and provide me red carpet and all. That's not what I expected. Being the first one, there were no policies and there were no guidelines and there were no way to complain. So I developed a problem-solving ability. I understood my issues. I was successful.
What's the male perspective on board?
Like somebody already said, it's the 97.5% that needs to change to get the 2.5% feel more inclusive. And there are a lot of people who make it more easier for the women seafarers to sail with and to be with on board. And there are a lot of things the management can do to make this more inclusive. I definitely would suggest that it's still a great career. There is great opportunity, and the future is being more diverse, and there's going to be multiple dimensions with the types of ships going to change, and the way of navigation is going to change, the work culture is going to change, so there's only new things to look forward to.
Yes, I would want anyone who want to take seafaring as profession to take it up. It is not a difficult profession. Decision has to be conscious one, and the person has to be sure why he or she wants to join shipping.
Before I get into the vote of thanks, I'll try to just recap some of the key aspects that stood out in the discussions today, in the panel discussion and the fireside chat. I think one of the first things that came up, which was really strongly, is it's no more lip service. It's time to walk the talk. We heard a lot about personal challenges faced by women on board. We talked about measures to encourage women to consider a career at sea. I think one of them was having more publicity, having more open discussions around this. Some of the measures to support women on board was to have more than one woman on board at a time. We talked about the need for gender sensitization training for all men and women. We talked about the need for us to change, to evolve, for us to sustain. We need to incorporate policies, and not just incorporate them, but also implement them around discrimination or anti-discrimination and harassment. We talked about, the basic right of equality, the core of it, which is justice and fairness. Shri Amitabh Kumar said, enough discussion, it is time for action, and that time is now.